that the new Leam has decided to reflect on this thing. You know that when this tragic incident happened and our student Muthukrishnan died and he committed suicide, an incident of that kind shocks the entire community. I have been in this university since 1979, to begin with as a student and then as a faculty. And this university has become part of my existence, my life. So when a student of ours commits suicide and ends his own life in such a tragic note, it shatters me. It shatters many of our colleagues and the student friends. And I believe that this is the time of sadness, but at the same time, this is the time when we should ask ourselves some critical question. We should look at ourselves. We should go in for self-reflection and try to understand that why this kind of thing did happen. I believe that when I begin to speak on that, it is very important to share it with you that there are two mistakes that we often tend to make when we begin to think of an incident of this kind. The first mistake, I believe, is that we can easily, individualize it. We can say that Muthukrishnan died or he committed suicide. It was his purely personal affair. Maybe he could not cope up with the stress, with the pressure of academics. He could not adjust. Maybe he had some personal issues, or he was depressed, psychologically weak, vulnerable, and that's why he committed suicide. This, I think, is a very insensitive approach to the issue, because when someone commits suicide, it is not just about the personal tragedy, it also indicates that entire dynamics of social context in which this person is situated, the dynamics of social relationships, and the fact that he lived in a university, he came to this university with great hope for higher education, and he decided to end his life. That should make us think of the university life, the culture of academics, the kind of relationships that prevail between teachers and the students, and whether there is something problematic in that dynamics of the relationships that further stimulated him to go in for depression and end his life. So I think that we should not individualize the issue. We should try to examine the dynamics of social relationships. And second mistake that we tend to make is that, especially after the post-Rohit event in Hyderabad, and in a situation characterized by disturbed campuses, be it Hyderabad Central University or the Jawaharlal Nehru University, and it is an extremely emotive, politically charged, turbulent campus. And we often tend to make a mistake that we try to see this kind of phenomenon in terms of a pure game of political engineering, and we try to see it as certain kind of an institutional murder, as a conspiracy theory, as if some professors, some department, some teachers were not sufficiently sensitive. They could not understand the agony of the student, and it was a kind of institutional murder. I would like to go beyond these two mistakes, and I would try to pinpoint three essential points which, according to me, are very important to go deeper into the issue. So my first point of departure would be, the reflection on the changing culture of university life and academics. This, I think, is very important. See this boy. Now, he came from a marginalized caste, from Tamil Nadu, from a Dalit background. And increasingly we would see the changing demography of the university life. Many students, because of the policy of protective discrimination, the rise of Dalit movements and the lower caste movements, and the new awareness about education and social mobility, many students from hitherto silent, marginalized, oppressed communities and castes are coming to the higher education. And when they come, they often experience a sense of humiliation, marginalization, or if if I'm allowed to use Goffman's word, a certain kind of stigmatization. Historically, we know that our educational institutions and our campus life was not always very positive and conducive to the positive growth of first generation learner or the student coming from Dalit communities or marginalized communities. I just wish to give a simple illustration that many of you must have read, the famous Dalit writer, his biographical sketch, Om Prakash Valmiki. And he could express that how in the late 50s during his school days, he could experience a severe form of stigmatization and humiliation by the school headmaster. At one level, as many research tend to suggest, things didn't change substantially, be it a school, college and university. Many students from the marginalized communities do bear this burden of stigmatization and marginalization. So under these changed circumstances, I believe it is exceedingly important to understand them, their agony, with a great deal of empathy, compassion and care. And I believe that a university like ours, historically speaking, aimed at serving this purpose and making a balance between two objectives of higher learning and education, that is the quality teaching, quality learning and research on the one hand, and on the other, sensitivity to social equity and justice. It was not about pure abstracted meritocracy, but it was about taking a very delicate journey where the quality of teaching, good research would be reconciled with an equally important moral, ethical and pedagogic arch for social equity, for an egalitarian and harmonious society, not to reproduce the existing hierarchy and inequality. And that would require a very creative, critical, compassionate pedagogy and a very sustained engagement between the teacher and the taught. My fear is that over the years, the nature of academics, particularly in the era of neoliberalization and increasing corporatization of our everyday existence, has changed drastically. And these changes are visible not only in the institutes of technology and management, but I believe even in a place like our university, JNU, where academics is fast becoming increasingly corporatized in the sense of production-oriented, performance-oriented, something as a measured commodity in terms of publications, edited volumes, international publishing, foreign trips, and the projects from the donor agencies. And in that environment of social Darwinism and competitiveness, marketization and corporatization of academic life, the profile of the university academic is changing fast. So where is that time, that inspiration, that idealism for having a very sustained engagement with young learners in a heterogeneous setting, learners coming from different backgrounds, first generation learner, Dalit students, women, marginalized people, and to engage with them, work with them, and slowly and steadily, collectively work with them, and as people like Paulo Freire would say, that to evolve a culture of learning which emerges out of that dialogue and as a collective project. In this front, today we believe we seem to be missing in this front, and that as a result has led to a broken relationship between the teachers and the students, and many students who do not come to the university with such cultural capital, fluency in English, certain kind of background in academics, or the parental support, particularly those who come from the marginalized caste and communities, they experience a great degree of humiliation. So we have to take into account of this fact. Having said that, I would also say that even among the radical student groups, a strange form of hierarchization is fairly noticeable. Anyone who has lived in a university life and in a campus like ours could notice this hierarchization. Imagine this case, for instance, the Center for Historical Studies. The student belonged to this. Two other students, very bright young research scholars who were part of the recent JNU struggle, and two distinguished historians, faculty members from the same center, wrote very encouraging articles about the academic qualification and about their research skills in the Indian Express. And that was very encouraging. But both the school students came from the metro cities, from good colleges, from a fair degree of academic culture and the nuanced cultural symbolism and the linguistic skill. But are all radical students, particularly those who are from the peripheries, from the small towns, and without the knowledge of English or training in the cultural nuances of academic life, are they equally privileged? Do teachers treat them equally, or are they treated merely as an average student and the poor student and marginalized? And whether even English-speaking, city-oriented, radical youth who form the leadership of this organization treat them equally with a sense of brotherhood, comradeship, and mutual support. That, I believe, is an important question that we ought to ask and reflect on. Now, my second point, which I wish to share with you, is that the fast-changing cultural life among the student community of the students. Now, many students today are coming, from the middle-class families, and they are the children of what I would say the neoliberal India, post-90s children. And many of them, because of the information revolution, technological revolution, consumption culture, neoliberal economy, have been oriented to look at the world in a different way. Growing sense of individuation, individualism, and intoxication with social media, gadgets, internet, Facebook, that I believe have led to certain kind of social isolation in a very concrete, intimate, face-to-face physical setting. And that led to a great degree of anonymity among students. Sometimes I have seen that even in the classrooms, students do not know each other's name. There are small groups. Clash as a solidarity seldom emerges. Now, this is the kind of anonymity that is the symptom of the time we live in, and I could see it among students. And I believe this anonymity has further been intensified and added by a highly utilitarian, Machiavellian culture of politics, including radical politics. Because quite often it is happening that the students are engaging with each other purely in terms of political vocabulary and political calculation and utility. So I call you that please come to Freedom Square or Ganga Dhaba, and we'll have a torchlight demonstration. And then once this demonstration is over, seldom do I meet you, talk to you, interact with you, and engage with you in simple, human, meaningful human conversations. How are you? Whether everything is fine at your home? How are your parents doing? Are you finding it difficult to cope with your assignment? Can I be of any help to you? Should we have a cup of tea together? Can we go out together? These simple conversations of friendship, comradeship, irrespective of political, ideological differences, that seem to be disappearing fast. And that's why what we could see, the air is filled with a great degree of negativity, suspicion, utility, Machiavellianism, and instrumentality. That, I believe, has poisoned the milieu, the campus, and the culture. And I would try to see that when this boy committed suicide, that also possibly speaks of the culture that we live in. Now, my third point of departure here would be is there now a way out? And it is in that context, I know I live in a politically articulate campus, in a politically charged university, and politics is all pervading, politics is everywhere. But the point that I wish to argue and share with you is that we have to see beyond the very calculative utilitarian politics. We have to go beyond the politics that breeds only conspiracy theory, the politics that erects wall and causes suspicion. What is important is that to have a genuine human concern, genuine compassion and egalitarian concern and search for a society that truly believes in abolishing all sorts of stigmatization, hierarchization, and caste, ethnic, gender inequality and division through care, through love, through empathy and understanding. A politics that does not want to keep it alive in the name of political career and utility, but a politics which is genuinely concerned with its eradication, with its abolition. And that politics, I believe, meets the language of love, language of care, and the language and the sensitivity that would generate a new university, for instance, as a very vibrant egalitarian public sphere, a communicative sphere in which teachers and students across caste, class, ethnicity, gender begin to learn to see themselves as human, as co-travelers, as equal learners, trying to make sense of the world. And it is this spirit of communication with love and empathy that can fight stigmatization, that can overcome the wounded consciousness that many marginalized Dalit students and the first generation learner experience, and that could enrich the university life and the academics. There is a great educationist called Ronald Barnett who talked about ecological university, and his utopia was of a future university in which ecologies of knowing, ecologies of connectedness and wisdom inquiry that enables people to love each other, to love nature, to relate to each other, rather than using people, using knowledge as pure objects of manipulation and control. And it is this ecological university that Barnett would say that creates the language of hope, a non-hierarchical, compassionate, egalitarian society. I believe that in a university like ours, we ought to strive for this kind of space, this kind of utopia. And I too cherish this utopia, and my politics is centered on this utopia. Thank you very much for giving me an opportunity to share some of my ideas with the new